Well, good afternoon, beloved friends. It's 12:12 and time for Awareness Moments with Kyra. And I want you to know the process for me in this journey of bringing forth awareness moments to all of you is inviting me to deepen my own awareness, to access and live from and truly align to that awareness within myself. And so I know it looks like I'm doing this for you, but I'm doing it for me because it forces me to come into this place of awareness within myself and stay anchored or return again and again and again to this conscious expansiveness that then has me living life and experiencing the world from a very different place. And it's what I wish for all of us, to open ourselves to that higher expansiveness, from that greater awareness. But it takes some attunement on an ongoing basis. Welcome Hitaji Aziz, welcome George Powaznik. So great to have each of you with us, and others that I know will join us. And at this time, I want to invite the question of what are you listening to? In this process, I want to invite you to an inner listening journey, because to come to a place of living from that awareness within, we have to notice all the different ways our senses are operating. Welcome Kimberly Wright, welcome Cass Gibson, glad to have you with us. And so as I'm in this journey and reattuning myself continually to that inner awareness, I get to notice what I'm listening to. Now, when I say that, I'm talking about listening both internally and externally. If you did not watch yesterday's video, I'm going to invite you to do so. Later in the video, if you want to skip on in, welcome Gil Gallegos, glad to have you with us, is that if you skip ahead in that video, there's a place where I talk about, I don't know what the number is to tell you, but that I talk about a process called owl eyes. It's a Native American teaching that I used to teach in my retreats, and I still do, teaching it here. And, and it actually involves all of our senses. Well, today I want to really focus on our listening, because what we listen to begins to implant different ideas, different things that continue to rotate through our awareness when we do that. And so welcome Monica Heyman and Gail Kendall McFadden. And so when I listen to see what am I listening to and what effects does it have on me, there's a couple of different levels of this. We get to then decide, is that really working for my good? Is it really harmonizing my being, relaxing me, or is it creating inner tension? One of the stresses of our world is this place where we create stress by listening to things that create an inner stress response, a reaction that is fight or flight. And our body temples begin to react to that. They tense up. They begin to have different responses to the messages that the world is giving us, that the messages that we're giving ourselves. And so as we do our living, our living experiment, really, our living experiment in life, this is such a powerful time for us to be a living experiment with ourselves. Welcome Doug Cyber and Stacy Turner, glad you're with us. And so to have that exercise where you go within, and I was giving the example of owl eyes where you notice what you're seeing, you go deeply into just being still and then notice with eyes open, what are you seeing in front of you, above you, below you, beside you? But spending time to notice, to really anchor in where you literally see in every direction. This is how, in the native traditions, they were able to run through the forest without making a sound, being at one with the interconnected whole. You know, firewalkers that understand walking on fire is you're seeing into those pathways through the fire. You're unifying yourself with those greater awareness, but it takes the eyes to see. Well, today, as we talk about what we're listening to, you can do the same exercise with each of your senses. And so when you stop and truly listen, you notice the nuances of sounds around you. I sat in my backyard this morning and I could hear as I stopped and listened. Of course, I heard so many things. I heard neighbors that were, edging and those that were mowing. And I heard the birds, the various birds. And I heard they're talking to each other and communicating. Welcome, Kathleen Saltzman. Welcome, Aurelia. Great to have my cousin here, Kathleen. And it is each time we open ourselves to deeper awareness. So that listening, I started to experience in the listening, not just the sounds that I heard of the birds and the squirrels and the gentle wind against, the leaves or the wind chimes that were moving. I heard the sounds of the house behind me. I heard the sounds of, the whispers of my soul began to speak. And as we truly listen in, I also noticed, that how many times I'm not aware of what I'm listening to. And it took me into a deeper, more expansive space. I also noticed, as I'm in that place of deep listening, what feelings did I get from each of the sounds, each of the experiences that I was listening into. I could listen into my own breath, breathing me. I could listen, if I listened quietly enough and truly just allowed, I could hear my heartbeat. I could hear the blood moving through my veins. Now, you don't get there without slowing down and stopping and really taking the time to listen. But how many of us are doing that? It made me so aware of the listening of also the inner conversation. In that moment, I was quieting the mind. In the deep listening, I wasn't having all of the mind chatter. Maybe a question here or a thought there, but they weren't that constant that happens in our minds. And it was quite beautiful. What I noticed also in the midst of that, in that deeper listening, of listening to the rhythms of my own body temple, of listening to the rhythms of life around me, and the nature and its natural. Growing up in Iowa, we used to talk about how you could hear the corn grow. Now, I worked in the fields when I was young for my grandpa in his farm. Welcome, Kate Lumley and Wendy Hoggett. Great to have you here. And you really could hear at certain times it would suddenly creak and begin to grow and sprout. But you had to have a listening for it. And so what I want to invite in this time is, what are we listening for? It was interesting. I was doing yoga this morning with my online teacher. Thank you, Cass. And it was very powerful for me to notice what the listening was within my own mind. We create an intention each time and really go in and settle into what is that intention. And so I'd call it up again and again. But in between, oh boy, did I have some listening to do, because the mind was wanting to, what the mind does, the thoughts do, they criticize, they analyze, they compare. It's the nature of the mind to do that. Welcome, Michelle Berkman-Stagg, or Burcham and Stagg. And it is we open ourselves into the awareness in this moment of what we're listening to and what effect is it having on us physically, emotionally. What is the experience? Does it really create that place of expansiveness? And I would have to laugh at my mind, as it would say the things to me. Welcome, Ashley Madrigal. It's so great to have you with us. And I would notice, as my mind wanted to criticize that my body's not quite able to do certain things. I've noticed recently there's a particular movement, and I realized it goes back to an injury I had. And I'm in the process of, as I go deeper into my yoga practice, then different experiences come up. I wasn't as hard on myself at the beginning because, I was at the beginning. I hadn't done yoga in 25 years. I gave myself, a break from being too hard on myself. But now all of a sudden, the mind wants to create, criticism wants to say, oh, but you should be able to do this. Oh, but why can't you do that? And you didn't do that very well. And oh my, it's quite fascinating to watch what the mind does. And then I would laugh and say, I am strong and I am flexible and I am in harmony with all of my body. I would immediately start changing those thoughts in the midst of that. Look at how far I've come in my yoga practice. Oh my gosh, my body is health and wholeness. And I would begin to reconnect to a deeper knowing. Listen to my body as it stretches more fully, as it breathes more deeply, as it strengthens and it brings forth its true awareness into every cell and every space between the cells, every sinew and tendon and all of me can begin to then harmonize in a new way. But to notice that listening, welcome Domingo and to Missy Montalvo Bano Wright, so great to have you with us, is that deeper inner listening. And what I noticed is that when I take time to settle in and notice the listening, I'm not just automatically responding. You know, the difference with us and animals in nature is that they don't have the same stress response that we do. They, if something happens, they fully experience it in the moment, but they're not doing this inner critical response. They're not thinking about it. Yeah, that's Doug Sivers asking, and now I can leap across building tops. Not quite yet, but I'm certainly closer than I was. And and who knows what the quantum field has available to us as we shift and open to that deeper awareness and consciousness. And so each one of us get the opportunity to say, what if I didn't create that stress response, that comparison, and I start to notice in my listening, what relaxes me? What brings me into harmony in my body and my being? What thoughts, what hearing in the world, and how do I respond to those noises? I remember my dog, Princess. I missed my two puppies. I lost them both this last year. So during this time of being alone, it has been a little bit of missing my babies a little, but I've also honored that it was their time. But Princess could snore. That girl, she was a little tiny Shih Tzu, but she could snore. She would snore so loud it would be over the entire house. She would sleep across the house from me, and she would snore so loudly, she'd wake me up sometimes. And I noticed that I had the option, that I didn't get irritated at it. I thought it was the sweetest thing ever. And I noticed that it softened me. Every time I heard her snore and it woke me up or something, I went, oh, I love that Princess. And I could just feel my love and gratitude for her in my life. She was a rescue, and I was so grateful for her, and I had her for 12 years. And Cosmo, my Schnauzer, I had him for 14 years. And what a blessing that each of them represented in who they were and how they were. And what do I listen for, and what response do I have in my listening? I invite you to go and try this exercise and go into the depths of your being and notice, what do you hear behind you? What do you hear below you? What do you hear beside you, above you? What do you hear within you? And begin to notice and embrace the possibility that the way that you listen is going to open you up, and you'll notice whether it's a listening that creates relaxation in your being or one that creates stress. And what if we can change the way our listening is? That we listen for the beauty, for the harmony, for the peace, for the wholeness, for the blessing that is in every moment. If you're listening to things, news, other things that don't bring you those places of inner harmony, of getting your mind all activated instead of relaxed, just notice and see if that's a choice that really serves you as you go forward. Welcome, I don't know how to say your name. Ludmila, Christina Miller, oh, thank you for watching with us, being here. And each one of us have an option to notice what we're listening and how we're talking to ourselves as well. Because when we listen really and notice, wow, what if we can learn to be like the animals? We're fully present in the moment. It doesn't mean they don't have experiences when another animal eats this animal or whatever it might be. It may be that creates a tension, a stress within them in that moment, but then they let it go. They move on. We continue to tell stories about it. We continue to perpetuate, oh my gosh, it was wrong. And, that whole thing about the monks that saw a woman who was trying to cross the river, and one of them said, you can get on my back, I'll carry you. And later down the road, they've been walking for hours, and the other monk says, you touched a woman, we're not supposed to do that. And he says, well, I carried her, and I put her down. Why are you still carrying her? And we get to ask ourselves, why do I still carry different ideas, thoughts? Why am I carrying these sounds, these ways of perceiving? And listen in to what expands your soul, what opens your heart, what powers your life in magnificent ways. And be present in this now moment with that listening. It will transform your experience. I wish you all a fabulous, fabulous day. God bless you, friends. May you listen to the sound of your heart and be enthralled. May you listen into the blood moving through your veins and feel the power of your health and wholeness. May you listen into the delight of the wonderful world around you. And may you perceive every sound as a blessing in your inner and outer experience. God bless you, friends. I'm so grateful that you have all joined me, and I wish you a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, Cynthia Chang. Love you all. Bye-bye.